What's up, everybody? This is Aztec 101 in the ring. Now I want to talk about Brandon Rios versus Chaves. It was a great fight. It was a great fight. For while it lasted, I really enjoyed myself. I really did. And I kind of feel a little annoyed that I missed out on those last two rounds. And I hope they get to fight again. But it was a very even match. I had this a draw. I had this a draw. If you felt like Chaves was winning this fight and he was robbed of this fight, I can see that. I can see that most definitely. Chaves was doing his thing on the outside, landing his right hands. I think the biggest punches from the night, or the biggest punches of the night, came from Chaves, if my memory serves me correctly. But Brandon Rios is no slouch, and he was actually landing some pretty good punches himself. This fight right here is a great example on why the term the sweet science is used. And maybe some of you might look at me like I'm out of my mind. But bear with me, and I'll explain. See, the sweet science is supposed to describe boxing as something that is a technique. It's something that's learned. It's not just two men throwing their arms recklessly, trying to hit each other. It's not random punches being thrown. There's a science to it. There's a skill set. And this is a perfect example because maybe to the untrained eye, you might look at this and you might go, these are just two fucking savages in the ring, just throwing punches, trying to knock each other's head off. And that's just not the case. And you can tell if you can really, really spot the sweet science in a fight. Obviously, skill sets were different in this fight. Brandon Rios was able to come forward, close the distance, and work the inside very well. That's where he had the most success. His jab, he really wasn't moving his head on the outside, no matter how many times Garcia was telling him to move his fucking head, he still wouldn't do it. And he was walking into punches, but once he did get in on the inside, he was doing some beautiful body work. He was landing some great hooks, some great punches were being landed. And he had success on the inside. And it was just, you could tell it's just a skill set that Brandon has, and it's just on another level than what, Chaves has on the inside. Chaves was having more success keeping his distance, turning Rios, landing his jabs, landing his straight right hands. He was landing that right hand all night. It was just, I'm sure, demoralizing to see your opponent laugh your biggest punch off. Chaves was landing, these crazy hooks and powerful right hands, and Brandon Rios was just laughing, just smiling right after. And that's demoralizing. Even though you look at it and you go, fucking Rios is a fool. He's going to get knocked out. But when you're in there and Rios is throwing punches back at you, it's demoralizing. It gets under your skin, and I'm sure that's part of the reason why he was getting frustrated. Let alone, Chaves was smothering his own punches on the inside. So it was just a skill set that he's not very comfortable with. He doesn't really use, or if he does, he's never really used it against a guy who's as aggressive and comes forward the way Brandon Rios does. Brandon Rios really didn't use his jab. He really wasn't, he would try. Some of them were lazy. He was getting countered like crazy. And getting hit with body shots. Chaves was just putting in some work. This was a great fight. Each one were landing big punches. And I think the biggest punches of the night came from Chaves. If my memory serves me correctly, I think the biggest punches of the night, from what I can remember, came from Chaves. For the most part, though, I was entertained. The only thing that was kind of getting away of it was the referee was inconsistent in him calling, taking points away and he constantly had to get in there and separate these fighters. And a lot of it had to do with one, you had Chaves who didn't really know what to do on the outside. I mean, on the inside. And all he could do to neutralize Rios was hold him. And Rios, on the other hand, he couldn't perform with these tactics, being put on him. And that's another skill set, fighting dirty. And the only problem is that Chaves knows how to fight dirty, he just didn't know how to get away with it. A lot of the things he was doing were things that usually the ref doesn't see, but it was just, some of the stuff was just too obvious. Throwing your forearm out there the way he did, that was really obvious. You had him rubbing his head up against Rios' head. That was really obvious. I was noticing that a lot. And, it was just a matter of time before something was going to happen. And it seemed as though, and I think it was Andre Ward who had said it. I think so, yeah, I think it was Andre Ward who had pointed it out. I think just a round before they got this disqualification. He said it's almost as if this is bound to end in disqualification, as if the referee had already made up his mind that he was going to disqualify one of these fighters. And that's exactly what happened. Andre Ward he basically hit the nail on the head on this one. And it was kind of it was messed up because I wanted to see what would have happened. Rios was taking some big shots. We can't deny that. And I saw him rocked a few times. But he kept coming forward, so it's kind of hard to tell if he's injured or not. And you had Chaves. Chaves was taking punishment on the inside. And he was getting hit hard. And it was just a matter of time before one of these fighters ended up hurting each other. And whether it was because of the dirty tactics or because their heads bump into each other or whatever. Everything that happens in the fight was happening in this fight. Yeah, that's what happens when you get two guys that really don't like each other. I mean, if you really don't like this guy, it's beyond competition. It's just, I want to fuck you up by any means necessary. And it is what it is. The referee kind of went a little bit too far in my opinion, but I hope there's another fight, and I hope this next fight goes 12 rounds. 10 rounds, even though it was a 10-round fight, and I got robbed of the last few rounds, I feel like I would rather see this a 12-round fight. Like I said, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm sure a lot of you wouldn't want to see this again just because it was two brawlers. But yeah, to me, I enjoy watching these fights. All different styles, as long as it's very entertaining. And this is almost like it was what it was. It was an entertaining fight that ended early. Not a lot of people like to see the dirty stuff, but I don't care. I do, as long as you know how to deal with it. And that's kind of where I want to go into saying, Brandon Rios was getting on my nerves when he was complaining. He was kind of complaining a little bit too much, as if, like you were doing some things too. Come on. And at the end, you want to say that you didn't want this to end in disqualification. Well, if you're complaining to the ref, where do you think it's going to end up? It's going to end up in a disqualification. So if you don't want it to go that way, keep your mouth shut and fight your way out of the clinch. But don't get me wrong, Rios tried to do that. He tried to fight out of the clinch. So, I mean, it was just a bad situation. It was a bad night of boxing. Bad night of boxing. It could have been really great. If these fighters would have fought till the end, I think they both would have been proud of their performance. Just the fact that it was a disqualification makes them, I'm sure, want to do this. I'm sure they're going to want to do this again. I guarantee it. These guys are those type of fighters where they're willing to fight. And I can see Brandon Rios not shying away from a rematch. So what do you guys think? This is Aztec 101 in the ring, and I'm out.